So, as most of us who are probably here in the church, I did grow up in a faithful household, or going to church, if you know what I mean. So we would go every Sunday. My parents raised me to love the Lord and go to church and try to do things pleasing to Him. And I grew up going to like Sunday school and church every weekend and stuff like that. And then up to around 15 to 16 years old is kind of when I decided that going to church and being faithful kind of really wasn't for me anymore, I guess. Because I just thought I was young and I knew better and I would do what I want to do. And, you know, I was definitely of the world at this point in my life. And I got into partying and not really hanging out with the right crowd and drinking and experimenting with drugs, and did that for about 4 years or so, 4 to 5 years, 16, 17 to around 21. And it was right around 21 years old where the Lord really kind of started kind of pulling me back in and making me realize, like, hey, like what you're doing is not only wrong, but I felt even more guilt about it because I was raised in the church, so I knew that it was wrong, but was doing it anyway. I really felt a calling from the Lord to change my life, and I did change it for the better. You know, I left the drinking and drugs and partying behind and started working full time at a good job. Started getting a trade, which at this time was doors and windows. So I did a lot of things in a more positive manner, but I would still consider myself at this time, I felt the Lord pulling me back in, but I was still kind of lukewarm in the faith. And really the next step came about 5 years later, because I would say I was at a very lukewarm stage between 21 to 26, 27 in the 5-6 year period where I was a Christian, but I wasn't practicing being a Christian. I would tell people I was a Christian. I would quote Bible verses, but I wasn't really acting on being a Christian. I would say it, I wouldn't do it. And after meeting my wife and us kind of getting close pretty fast, and we kind of started to make that journey back to the Lord and actually practicing our faith together.
I grew up in the church. My parents raised me in the church. They really raised us in the church. Like, I lived with them, you know, obviously my childhood and then into some of my adulthood, and it was a requirement that if I was under their roof, I had to go to church. I guess when I got my driver's license is when I really started like letting loose and not really caring about the gospel and not really caring about, you know, what my parents thought. I was doing my own thing. I was doing what I wanted to do, and I got into, you know, drinking a lot, starting in high school, and then until I turned 20, and then I found the drugs. There were a lot of Sundays that I would go to church and I would sleep in the back, just because I was, like when I was older, that I would just sleep in the back because I was tired from partying the night before. I didn't prepare my heart for church at all. So I started doing terrible things like stealing from my parents, and it just got really bad. My parents basically forced me to go to rehab 2 times. I started with an outpatient rehab and made it most of the way through that, and then the second one was in Philadelphia. And the program, it was called Teen Challenge. It was a faith-based program, a 14-month program, and I only stayed for a month because when my parents came to visit me for the first time, I convinced them to bring me home with them. And that's where I really, like, on our way home in the car, I like remember just praying, like, Lord, like, help me to just change so I don't ever have to do something like this again. And that's where I really started seeing things change for me.
Together, through a slow process, we were both raised in the church, obviously. We both kind of went back together, and that's kind of where the drawing back to the Lord and really committing ourselves and our lives to the Lord started. I think with Calder coming was really that last push to really go head first and just commit. We bounced around to a couple of different churches, and we had tried a couple of the larger churches in our area, and we never really found a church home, I want to say. This was back when Harvest was in the middle school and had the worship center, or the place right there at the circle. We would go through the circle almost every single day, and Cyndee would say a bunch of times, she's like, see that Harvest Bible Chapel sign, like, the Harvest Bible Chapel, maybe we should check that out. And we just felt a nudge one Sunday. I don't remember, I think it was you who just was like, why don't we just go?
It was the first weekend of October.
Mm-hmm. And so we just went. We came again the next week, and we felt the same kind of warm welcome. So at that point, we were kind of starting to get hooked in and just kind of like really feel that the Lord was telling us this is where we should be, and this is a church we should try to get involved in.
And I would say our relationship with God has like bloomed since we've been here. Because
not perfect, but
right,
can't never claim that,
perfect.
But the leaps and bounds we have taken together has been truly life-changing for us. I thank the Lord every day that He sent me Cyndee first to give me that initial push, and then He sent us Calder. We were kind of unexpected, but I mean, it was the greatest thing that ever happened, and not just because he was born, but because we really decided that we wanted him to grow up in the church and grow up in the faith. And how could we have him do that if we didn't show him ourselves? And we didn't practice like our parents did. So it really became a new emphasis to really surrender our lives to the Lord and just show our son, the example that we really want him to see.